is from my grandmother. A gift. I don't know actually what is inside. She's moving house, and she said she would send me something that is very dear to her. Shall I open? Oh, mind. Maybe these are souvenirs from her career. Career? What did she do? Oh, my grandmother was a dancer. A prima ballerina from the Opera of Paris, or how do they say in France, l'Opéra Garnier. Wow, this looks interesting. See what is this? Look. No? Why not? It must be some Barockish thing. Baroque. My grandmother was not born then. I wonder where she needs stuff like this. I think this is her journal, maybe her memoir, maybe her notes. She was also a teacher. Now, I'm intrigued. Do you know this one? Anna Pavlova. That's not my grandmother. No, I don't know. I'll read. Ballet is an art of memory. Dancers obsessively memorize everything. Steps, gestures, combinations. Ballet has no fixed text. It is an oral and physical tradition, a storytelling art passed on, word by word. People have been practicing and performing it for at least 400 years, meaning since at least the 16th century. This is a very interesting moment in old Europe, especially since French and Italian culture came into close and formal alliance thanks to the marriage of Queen Caterina de' Medici from Florence and King Henry II from France. Nothing to do with my own marriage to my French husband, of course. History repeats itself. Basically, when Caterina arrives to France, she brings her sophisticated taste for the arts and develops a cultural program for the monarchy, which aimed to put the king and the queen at the center of the universe, as direct descendants from the divine order. The first ballet performed in France has been the Ballet Comique de la Reine, performed in 1581. It lasted 5 hours. Oh gosh. But it was only with King Louis XIV, the Sun King, that ballet became a state discipline, a sort of military art practiced by nobles and kings. Its purpose was to elevate the nobility to serve their king. It was a central feature of court life. The Sun King founded in 1661 the Royal Academy of Dance, the Académie Royale de Danse, which we know today as the Ballet of the National Opera of Paris. This is where my grandmother works. In this spirit, Louis XIV ordered his ballet master Beauchamp to invent a way of making dance understood on paper. Basically, this is when the ballet gets a notation of steps. The most influential notation was the one codified by Raoul Auger-Feuillet, and it can be considered as the start of the classical technique. Posture was key. Movements were geometrical: circle, square, triangle. Dancers began and ended in the center of the room, facing each other or facing the king. The famous 5 positions of ballet were the en dehors, The turnout is fundamental. Start from this moment. Tabitha, could you play something Baroque? Do you know of any Baroque music?
I have a favorite piece.
Okay, go ahead.
You will love it.
Go ahead. Something.
You don't like it?
Yes.
Bach.
Bach.
Yes.
I like it, but maybe something lighter, more. Something lighter.
I will play you a royal music.
Royal music.
Yes.
Okay, please. Composer?
Lully. Italian composer.
Lully.
You will like him.
I like him.
Yes.
Lully. Okay, I'm trying to listen then. Thank you.
Mesdemoiselles, merci beaucoup. Commençons par les positions. 5 positions. Musique. 1, 2, 3, 8. Passons au tendu et jeté. Maestra. Et 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Et bras. 5, 6. Et le bras. Souple. Et le dos. 1. Et change. Et à gauche. Et 1, 2, 5, 6. Et très bien. Et le bras. Très bien, mademoiselle.
Point. Point. Les points. Aha.
Très bien, allez mettre vos pointes. Merci.
Point. This. When women began to dance ballet in 1681, 20 years after King Louis XIV of France ordered the founding of the Académie Royale de Danse, the standard women's ballet shoe had heels. Oh, no. Mid-18th century dancer Marie Camargo of the Paris Opera Ballet was the first to wear a non-heeled shoe, enabling her to perform leaps that would have been very difficult otherwise. After the French Revolution, heels were completely eliminated from standard ballet shoes, so that dancers could leap, ecstatic turns, and fully extend their feet. The first dancers to rise up on their toes did so with the help of an invention by Charles Didelot in 1696. The flying machine lifted dancers upward, allowing them to stand on their toes before leaving the ground. Because this lightness and ethereal quality was well received by the audiences, choreographers began to look for ways to incorporate more point work into their pieces. Marie Taglione is presumed to be the very first ballerina on point of all times. However, the birth of the modern point shoes is often attributed to the early 20th century Russian ballerina Anna Pavlova, who was one of the first famous and influential dancers of her time. To compensate for the excessive pressure on the big toe, she inserted leather soles into her shoes for extra support and flattened and hardened the toe area to form a box. The modern point was born. So basically, the role of the point was firstly to give the impression that the dancers were floating high. This was the perfect special effect to represent the non-human characters that so often live in the stories of romantic ballet. Away from the strict etiquette of the Baroque royal courts, romantic ballet focuses on stories which mingle earthly characters and facts to supernatural creatures. In this other world, the female protagonists are light and airy creatures and are free because they are unconstrained from the mundane convention of social life. What a jump from the rigidity of the Baroque epoch. Ballerinas become the true stars of these performances. Where male dancers mostly have a complementary role, they just come in support of ballerinas. It is during the Romantic period the long tutus appear, and the majority of ballet is divided in two acts, where the second one, the White Act, often takes place in the world of spirits and supernatural creatures. And I think I know this one. I think think this is from the romantic ballet Giselle, music by Adolphe Adam, premiered in Paris in 1841.
Très bien, mesdemoiselles. Merci. Passons au second acte. Concentré. Maestro. Et restez. Et suspens. Très bien.
How I love these long tutus. So romantic, so elegant. Speaking of which, Tabitha, do you know this statue? La petite danseuse de 14 ans, the young dancer 14 years old, by French artist Edgar Degas. This artist has become famous all over the world for his painting of the Opera of Paris, backstage and on stage. In his times, he was known as the painter of the dancing girls. He actually painted a large number of artworks exclusively dedicated to the life backstage and on stage of the Opera of Paris. It was the first time that a painting would depict real life The efforts and the fatigue of the young dancers backstage, the omnipresent mothers who watched over their daughters but also overviewed the interaction between the young girls and the rich opera patrons who used to go backstage and pick up a protege, a dancer that they would encourage and support, sometimes in exchange of favors. The statue was a total scandal when it was first exhibited in Paris in 1881. It was made of wax, very unusual material for this time. The wig was made of wax. The tutu and slippers were real. All but the hair ribbon and the tutu were covered with wax. The arms are tensed. The legs and feet are placed in a ballet position, like a fourth position, but at rest. And there is tension in the pose, an image of a ballerina not posing in an angelic way. Her face is contorted. Some even thought that it was a deliberate attempt to portray ugliness. Some called it a monkey. But you could just say that it was just a teen who is pushed to do something that maybe she doesn't really like. Very realistic, don't you think so?
What is realistic?
The statue with the long tutu and the ribbon and the wax.
That's a tutu?
Yes.
I thought tutus are like, you know?
Oh, those are go this way. No. This comes much later. But let me first clear this because it's now bothering. I'll just come back in a second.
Croisé. En face. Effacé. 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 Effacé derrière. Croisé derrière. Effacé, croisé, effacé, croisé, effacé, croisé. Mais la gauche, croisée. En face. Effacé. Effacé. Effacé encore. Derrière. Effacé. Croisé la jambe. Et. Mais nous avons écarté devant, derrière. Et écarté devant. Écarté derrière. Écarté devant. Écarté derrière. Devant. Derrière. Devant. Derrière. Elle livre. Épaulement. Épaulé. That's like salt and pepper.
Hear what this says about romantic tutus. Romantic tutus were effective in portraying the ethereal creatures that exist in many ballet repertoire. But as ballet became more modernized, the flouncey but stiff tutus would be replaced by softer, more relaxed skirts. During the 20th century, the tutu reached its peak form with a plate-like shape. Plus, the pancake tutu shows more of the legs, and in this way it gives more importance to the showing of the technique. I'm sure my grandmother must have something of this sort. I'm sure. The point and the ribbon. The pancake tutu. Just to try this one. And I put here. And then I put here. And then I just go up. It's just shrinking because of time, what you think? The pancake tutu has its moment of glory during the classic era of the ballet or academic era. Sounds intellectual. Ballet during this era is organized around female protagonists. The sets and decors are majestic. There is a high number of roles and a fascinating blend of pantomime, ballet properly said, and character dance. The structure is always the same, an alternation of pas de deux. This is when the couple dance together. Variation, when the main dancer has a solo which shows all their virtuosity, and a coda in Italian, the last segment, the ending. During this epoch, the most famous choreographer is Marius Petipa, who was born in France but moved to Russia, where he became principal choreographer of the Imperial Ballet, which is today known as the Mariinsky Ballet. His are the most performed classic ballets, such as the Nutcrackers, the Sleeping Beauty, the Swan Lake. The music for all these masterpieces has been composed by one of the most famous Russian composer, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky.
Mesdemoiselles, allons-y pour Raymonda de Glasgow, entrée du troisième acte. Caractère. On y va. Et yes. Merci. Blanche, passons à la variation de la Belle au bois dormant. Troisième acte. 1, 2, 3, plié. Et cinquième. Et cinquième. Yes. Très bien, très bien, très bien. Lili. Parfait. Merci beaucoup, Blanche. Prenez votre pause.
The Russian ballet became very popular all over Europe. When they reached Paris and premiered at the theatre of Le Châtelet in 1909, the audience fell in love. This date marks as a true revolution in the history of ballet. The Russian ballet enchanted the audience because they were magnificent. All elements of a show were reunited. Choreography, music, but also costume, lighting, set, and decor. A name is forever connected to this triumphal moment of the Russian school, the impresario Diaghilev, who worked with and for dancers like Anna Pavlova, again, Fukin, Nijinsky. Nijinsky? Nijinsky. This reminds me of a scandal. Already in 1912, he choreographed ballet which pushed boundaries and stirred controversy. His Afternoon of a Faun, based on Claude Debussy's Prélude à l'après-midi d'un faun, introduced his audiences to a new direction of modern dance. As title character in L'après-midi d'un faun, in the final tableau, he mimed a sexual act, causing a scandal. Just 1 year later, in 1913, in The Rite of Spring, the Sacre du Printemps, with music by Igor Stravinsky, Nijinsky created choreography that exceeded the limits of traditional ballet and propriety. Violence broke out in the audience as The Rite of Spring premiered. The theme of the ballet, based on pagan myth, was a young maiden who sacrificed herself by dancing until she died. The theme, the difficult and challenging music of Stravinsky and Nijinsky choreography led to violent uproars.
Vous avez perdu la tête. De sauvage. Montrez-moi plutôt la 6e et la 7e position, ajoutées par Serge Liffard. Un peu plus classique, demi-pointe. Hop. 7e. Reste un espace, très bien. Sur demi. Ou pointe. Très bien. Une fois. Hop, contracte. Très bien. Et notre fameux décalé.
Décalé.
Out of center. Oh, décalé.
Oh. Off back. I see. Let's see here. Sixth.
Encore.
Seventh. Décalé.
Même chose. Prenez
Oh,
plus
here,
de
here.
risques.
Chapter
Bouge. Yeah.
the 20th century.
Décalé devant.
Two more dancers, choreographers formed at the school of Diaghilev, Serge Liffard and Georges Balanchine, continue to keep the tradition of ballet alive. And at the same time, they develop it into a neoclassical style. It is characterized by angular position, a gravity center which is off balance, the décalé, and a very strange line. This sounds like a musical. Here says that Balanchine loved musical. What is this? Gershwin. Gershwin. Gershwin.
Yes.
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 Yes. Gershwin.
You know who cares?
Yes. Yes.
Who cares? Who cares?
Who cares? I don't know.
Who cares? Who cares?
I don't know.
Mesdemoiselles, allons-y pour Who cares. Seconde.
Who cares?
Et.
Diaghilev, Nijinsky, Liffard, Balanchine, all men, all in Russia. And I know of at least two more. Mikhail Baryshnikov and Rudolf Nureyev. Big names, for sure, of the dance. They have marked history by breaking codes and innovating work. They excelled as dancers and choreographers, but what about women? This tells you all. There is a whole list of women who have been exceptional dancers, truly prima ballerinas, as well as remarkable choreographers whose impact on the evolution of dance cannot go unnoticed. Mademoiselle de La Fontaine, the first ever professional dancer. She was named as the Queen of Dance. Marie Taglioni, yeah, we spoke about her. The first ever dancer on point. Loie Fuller and Isadore Duncan, Americans. They are considered as the pioneer of modern dance. Loie was very much impressed by the technological innovation and scientific progress of her times, which inspired her works, while Isadora has traced dance to its roots as a sacred art. Anna Pavlova, that one. She was most recognized for her creation of the role of the dying swan, and with a whole company became the first ballerina to tour the world. Mary Wigman, German dancer and choreographer, notable as the pioneer of expressionist dance, dance therapy, and movement training without pony shoes. Martha Graham. Her technique is based on the opposition between contraction and release, and on the breathing cycle that became the trademark of modern dance forms. Pina Bausch, German dancers and choreographer, who with a blend of movement, sound, prominent stage sets and performance, developed the style known today as dance theater, and became an influence in the field of modern dance from 1970s on. The American Carolyn Hudson and the Canadian Crystal Pite, both living and working, are now writing a new chapter of the history of dance for our century. How inspiring.
Mademoiselle, la variation que nous avons préparée.
Tabitha, can you please play my favorite piece of music, please?
En place, mademoiselle. Maestra.